The iron door slammed behind me with a sound so loud it felt like it cracked my ribs from the inside. 1 second I was still pretending this was just some sketchy travel hiccup, and the next, boom, reality punched me straight in the face. The echo rang through the basement like a damn gunshot. Cold. Final. No going back. The air down there smelled like rust, mold, and pure hopelessness. My stomach twisted hard as I stumbled forward, chains clinking somewhere behind me. That's when it hit me, Ethan was never coming back for me. All those promises, all those baby, trust me, speeches? Straight up garbage. 3 days ago, I was still stupid enough to believe I was loved. Ethan had held me close in our tiny apartment, his voice low and warm like he was sharing some sacred secret. I just closed a massive deal. The firm sending me to Europe. First class. 5-star hotels. Just you and me. I remember smiling like an idiot, already picturing sunsets and cobblestone streets. Paris. Tuscany. Lisbon. All the Pinterest dreams rolled into one. I quit my job the next morning without even blinking. Packed my bags. Left my whole damn life behind. Now I was standing in an underground cage in a foreign country, my hands zip-tied behind my back, duct tape ripping into my skin, while the guy I loved negotiated my price like I was a used car. $500,000. That's what I was worth. A man stepped forward from the shadows. Tall. Sharp suit. Eyes like a predator sizing up dinner. Every step he took felt heavy, like the room was shrinking around me. Ethan shoved a black hardshell case toward him with shaking hands. $500K. All cash, Ethan said, forcing a smile that made my stomach flip. He wouldn't even look at me. I wanted to scream his name. Beg. Curse him out. Anything. But the tape kept me silent, and honestly? The betrayal hurt worse than the fear. The man, everyone called him Mr. Russo, didn't rush. He circled me slow, calm, like he had all the time in the world. Like my life meant nothing. His gaze crawled over me, cold and calculating. I felt stripped bare without him touching me once. That's when Ethan finally looked up. Don't look at me like that, he snapped, annoyed. You're not the victim here. You were broke. You were easy. I needed money, and you couldn't give it to me. Those words sliced deeper than anything physical ever could. 3 years. 3 damn years of my life reduced to a transaction. Russo grabbed my chin, forcing my head up. His glove was rough, his grip firm. His eyes were empty, no pity, no emotion. Just business. I closed my eyes, tears burning down my face. Then suddenly, his hand froze. The pressure vanished. I opened my eyes just in time to see him staring at my neck, at the silver phoenix pendant resting against my skin. His expression shifted fast. Shock. Disbelief. Something close to fear. That pendant, he said quietly. Where did you get it? I couldn't answer. Tape. He snapped his fingers. Get that off her. Now. The tape ripped free, pain flashing through my jaw, but I barely felt it. My mom gave it to me, I said hoarsely. Why? Russo went pale. What's her name? He asked, voice tight. Is it Eleanor Vance? My blood ran cold. Yes, I whispered. How do you know my mother? The room changed instantly. Russo stepped back like he'd just stared death in the face. And that's when I realized. I wasn't the one being sold. I was the one they should have been afraid of. The basement went dead quiet after my answer. No dramatic music, no yelling, just that heavy, suffocating silence where you can literally hear people thinking. Russo's face drained of color like someone pulled the plug on him. The man who'd looked like a stone-cold predator seconds ago now looked, rattled. Shook. Almost scared. He stared at me like I'd just crawled out of a grave. Eleanor Vance's daughter, he muttered under his breath. Ethan, being the clueless idiot he was, completely missed the shift in the room. He stepped forward fast, all greedy confidence, like he thought this was his moment to upsell. "If you like the necklace, Mr. Russo, consider it a bonus," he said, flashing that fake grin I used to fall for. "You can take it. Hell, take the girl too. Do whatever you want with her." The sound that followed was brutal. Crack. Russo backhanded Ethan so hard it echoed off the concrete walls. Ethan spun sideways and crashed to the floor, blood instantly pooling at the corner of his mouth. The basement guards froze. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Russo leaned down, eyes burning. "Shut your mouth," he snapped. "You have no idea what you've done." Ethan scrambled backward, clutching his face, panic finally setting in. "Am Mr. Russo? I don't." "You sold the wrong person," Russo said coldly. "And you almost got me killed." That's when he turned back to me. His entire posture changed. No circling. No dominance play. He carefully cut the zip ties on my wrists himself, hands steady but respectful. When I was free, he stepped back and did something that made my knees almost give out. He bowed. Deep. Formal. No hesitation. "Miss Vance," he said, voice tight with something close to regret. "I failed to recognize you. That mistake is unforgivable. Please tell me how I can make this right." I just stood there, wrists burning, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. My brain couldn't keep up. 10 minutes ago I was livestock. Now this man, who terrified everyone in the room, was bowing to me. "You know my mom?" I asked. Russo didn't lift his head. "She saved my life. Without her, there is no Marcus Russo." My stomach flipped. My mother? The same woman who nagged me about grades and vegetables? The woman who ran a small import-export business and barely smiled? None of it made sense. Behind us, Ethan started begging. Crying. Snot everywhere. "Ava, please. You know me." "I didn't know who you were." "If I had." I looked at him and felt nothing. No rage. No sadness. Just emptiness. "I don't want to see him again," I said calmly. Russo nodded once. 2 guards dragged Ethan up like trash. He screamed my name until the door slammed shut and the sound cut off like a switch. Russo led me outside. The sunlight hit my face so hard I had to shield my eyes. Fresh air filled my lungs, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I realized I was still alive. He opened the door to a black luxury sedan. "Please, Miss Vance." As the car pulled away, I finally asked the question burning a hole in my chest. "Who is my mother, really?" Russo met my eyes in the mirror. "What you know," he said quietly, "is barely the surface." And just like that, I knew my old life was officially over. The ride was quiet in that uncomfortable, too much thinking kind of way. The kind where your mind won't shut up no matter how badly you want it to. The city outside the window blurred past, narrow streets, old buildings, neon signs, but none of it felt real. It was like I'd been yanked out of my body and shoved into someone else's life. Finally, the car slowed. Tall iron gates rose in front of us, guarded by men in black suits with earpieces and zero chill in their eyes. They scanned the car, nodded once, and the gates slid open like something straight out of a billionaire movie. I swallowed hard. This place was massive. Manicured lawns, fountains, security cameras everywhere. It looked less like a house and more like a private fortress. When we stopped, Russo opened my door himself and escorted me inside like I was royalty, or fragile glass. "Rest," he said gently. "Your mother has been notified. She's on her way." That sentence hit harder than anything else so far. My mother was coming. I was led into a guest suite bigger than my entire apartment back home. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Silk sheets. A wardrobe already stocked with clothes in my size. I stood there frozen, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Pale skin. Dark circles. Eyes that looked older than they had yesterday. I touched the phoenix pendant around my neck. It felt warm, like it had a pulse. What the hell were you hiding, Mom? I showered, changed, and finally collapsed onto the bed. Memories flooded in whether I wanted them or not. My childhood suddenly felt off. Private schools we supposedly barely afforded. Problems that mysteriously disappeared. People who backed off without explanation. Had she been watching the whole time? A knock pulled me out of my thoughts. Miss Vance, a maid said softly. Mr. Russo requests your presence. I followed her to a study lined with dark wood and expensive art. Russo handed me a tablet without a word. This is everything we have on Ethan. I scrolled. Fake degree. Fake job. Gambling debts. Romance scam syndicate. The truth was uglier than I imagined. There was even a video, Ethan tied to a chair, sobbing, confessing everything. I shut it off. Where is he now? I asked. Russo didn't flinch. Gone. As you wished. A chill ran through me. I hated Ethan, but knowing how casually a life could be erased scared me more than the basement ever did. Before I could process that, the sound of rotors thundered overhead. Russo's posture straightened instantly. She's here. My heart slammed into my throat. Through the window, a black helicopter descended onto the estate's landing pad. The door opened, and a woman stepped out in a long black coat, flanked by bodyguards. She removed her sunglasses. And suddenly, she wasn't just my mom anymore. She was power. Cold. Controlled. Terrifying. Eleanor Vance walked toward the house like she owned the world, and honestly? It looked like she did. She stopped in front of me, eyes sharp, unreadable. Follow me, she said. No hug. No tears. Just 3 words that changed everything. The study felt smaller with her in it. Same room. Same heavy desk. Totally different energy. My mother, Eleanor Vance, sat across from me like a judge about to read a verdict. Hands folded. Spine straight. Eyes sharp enough to cut glass. I sat when she told me to. No arguing. No hesitation. Something about her tone made obedience automatic. Russo filled me in, she said calmly. You handled yourself well. That caught me off guard. Praise wasn't something she handed out like candy. Growing up, a nod from her felt like winning the lottery. I almost got sold, I said, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. Yes, she replied. And you survived. That was it. No apology. No, I'm sorry this happened to you. Just facts. She studied me for a long moment, like she was seeing me for the first time instead of the daughter she'd raised for 22 years. Do you hate me? She asked suddenly. For keeping you in the dark? I opened my mouth, then closed it. The honest answer sat heavy in my chest. I don't know, I said finally. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this. She nodded once, like that answer met some internal standard. I did what I thought was necessary, she said. My world is violent. Ruthless. People don't play fair. I wanted you far away from it. So you let me believe you didn't care? I shot back before I could stop myself. Her jaw tightened. Just slightly. I let you believe you were safe, she corrected. Silence settled between us. Then she dropped another bomb. I can still remove you from this, she said. New identity. New country. Enough money to live 10 lifetimes comfortably. You walk away, and this ends tonight. That offer should have been tempting. A clean escape. No danger. No blood on my hands. But all I could think about was Ethan. The basement. The way I'd been completely powerless because I didn't know who I really was. What if I don't want to run? I asked. Her eyebrows lifted, barely, but it was the first crack in her armor. You have no idea what you're asking for, she said coolly. This life eats people alive. I almost died outside your world, I said. Because I was naive. Because I didn't know how to see predators until it was too late. The words poured out faster now. You protected me so well I didn't know how to protect myself. I don't want to be that girl anymore. She stared at me, unreadable. Finally, she exhaled. You really are my daughter, she said quietly. Relief flickered through me, until a knock hit the door. Enter, she said. James walked in. James. Our butler. The man who used to sneak me cookies and walk me to school when I was little. The closest thing I had to family besides my mom. I stood up automatically. James. My mother's voice cut through the room like ice. James, she said, tell me how I should punish a traitor. The word hit me like a slap. James went white. Literally white. I don't understand, ma'am, he stammered. You pulled Ava's security, my mother said flatly. You made the calls. You took the money. James collapsed to his knees. I felt like the floor vanished under my feet. Betrayal. Again. And suddenly, I understood. This world didn't care how long someone loved you. It only cared how quickly they could destroy you. James hit the floor hard, like his legs had just given up on him. This wasn't the man I grew up with, the calm voice, the gentle smile, the one constant in a house that always felt emotionally cold. This version of him looked small. Broken. Terrified. I was forced, he sobbed, forehead pressed to the polished wood. They took my grandson. I swear, Miss Ava, I never meant for you to get hurt. My chest tightened, but not in the way I expected. No sympathy rush. No urge to help. Just this sharp, sick realization that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes wrapped in familiarity. The Donovan family, my mother said calmly. That's who threatened you, correct? James nodded frantically. They said if I helped lure her overseas, they'd let him go. They promised she'd be safe. I believed them. I let out a short, humorless laugh. You sold me, I said. To people who buy women like furniture. And you believed them? James looked up at me, eyes red and desperate. I didn't think it would go that far. My mother finally turned her gaze to me. Ava, she said evenly. I'll ask you again. Do you still want to stay? I understood the question now. This wasn't about courage. It was about clarity. About whether I could live in a world where love didn't guarantee loyalty and mercy was a calculated decision. I thought about Ethan. About James. About how easily both of them had justified destroying me. Yes, I said without hesitation. I'm staying. A flicker of approval crossed her face. Then watch closely, she said. This is how consequences work. She turned back to James. Your grandson will be retrieved unharmed. He'll be relocated, given a new life. You'll never see him again. James let out a broken sob of relief. And you, she continued, voice ice cold, will disappear. Guard stepped forward instantly. No, please, Miss Ava, James cried. I didn't look at him. If I did, I might have hesitated. And hesitation gets people killed in this world. When the door closed behind him, the room felt emptier. Heavier. My mother poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed me one. The Donovans have wanted leverage over me for years, she said. You were the last piece they needed. So Ethan was just bait, I said quietly. Yes. That answer burned. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Ava, a shaky voice whispered. It's Chloe. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. They took me, she said, panic barely held back. They said if you don't come alone to the waterfront warehouse, I'm dead. The call cut out. The silence afterward was deafening. Russo looked at me immediately. It's a trap. I know, I said. You cannot go, my mother said firmly. I met her gaze. They crossed the line. I stood up, already moving. Prep the car, I said to Russo. And mobilize everyone. Once I'm inside, lock it down. My mother studied me for a long second. Then she nodded. Don't hesitate, she said. Finish it. As I changed into tactical gear, heart steady, hands calm, I realized something terrifying and empowering all at once. I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. The warehouse sat by the waterfront like a rotting tooth, dark, abandoned, and begging for trouble. Rusted metal. Broken windows. The kind of place where screams disappear into the night and nobody asks questions. I parked exactly where they told me to, killed the engine, and stepped out alone. No phone. No backup in sight. At least, that's what they thought. What they didn't know was that the tiny button on my jacket wasn't just decoration. It carried a live tracker and audio feed, top-tier tech my mother's people trusted with their lives. Russo and his teams were already moving, locking down the perimeter in silence. 2 men grabbed me before I even reached the door. Rough hands. Quick pat down. They missed the device. Good. They shoved me inside. The air smelled like oil and seawater. My boots echoed against concrete as my eyes adjusted to the darkness. Then I saw her. Chloe. Tied to a chair. Face streaked with tears. Mouth taped shut. Her eyes widened when she saw me, shaking her head violently like she was begging me to run. I didn't. A man stepped forward, clapping slowly. Liam Donovan. He wore an expensive suit that didn't belong in a dump like this, gold ring flashing under the dim lights. His smile was smug, satisfied, like he'd already won. So, he said. Eleanor Vance's daughter actually showed up. Gotta admit, I didn't think you had the guts. Let her go, I said flatly. This is between you and my mother. He laughed. Loud. Mocking. Sweetheart, this is because of your mother. He circled me like a shark, eyes cold, hateful. She ruined my family. Took everything. Tonight, I take something from her. That's when his hand reached for my face. Big mistake. I moved before my brain even finished the thought. Elbow back. Hard. The guy behind me grunted, grip loosening just enough. I twisted, dropped low, spun. Gun out. Muzzle pressed to Liam Donovan's temple. Everybody freeze, I said, voice steady as hell. One twitch and I repaint the wall with his brains. The room exploded into chaos, guns raised, shouting, but nobody fired. Nobody wanted to be the guy who killed their own boss. Liam went still. Slowly, he smiled. You think you're walking out of here? He whispered. Even if you shoot me, you're dead. Maybe, I said. But you'll be dead first. And that makes us even. Sirens wailed in the distance. His smile cracked. Then Russo's voice blasted through a megaphone outside. You're surrounded. Drop your weapons. This is your final warning. Liam's face drained of color. You set me up, he snarled. I leaned closer. You underestimated me. I pressed the gun harder. Tell them to release my friend. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. Then fear won. Let her go, he barked. Chloe was untied in seconds. She ran to me, shaking, clinging to my side. I wrapped an arm around her, never lowering the gun. The doors burst open. Tactical lights flooded the warehouse. Russo's team moved fast, precise, deadly calm. Donovan's men were on the ground before they could blink. Liam collapsed to his knees. I stepped back, heart pounding, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. I walked out into the night knowing one thing for sure. The girl who walked into that basement days ago? She was gone. And she was never coming back. The ride back was quiet, but not peaceful. Chloe sat beside me in the back seat, knees pulled to her chest, fingers locked around mine like if she let go, she'd fall apart. I let her hold on. I didn't say much. There were no words that could rewind what she'd just lived through. Streetlights slid across the window, flashing shadows over her face. Every time the car slowed, she flinched. That did something ugly to my chest. I thought I was dead, she whispered finally. They kept talking about you like you were bait. I swallowed. I'm sorry. She shook her head hard. No. Don't. Whatever world you're in now. That wasn't on you. That might have been the last normal thing anyone ever said to me. When we reached the estate, my mother was already waiting. Same calm posture. Same unreadable expression. But this time, when she looked at me, I saw something new behind her eyes. Relief. You did exactly what you needed to, she said. No hesitation. No panic. Chloe stared at her like she was looking at a myth. A legend. A woman who bent reality without raising her voice. My mother turned to her. You'll be sent somewhere safe. New country. New identity. No connection to this life. Chloe looked at me, tears welling. Does this mean? It means you live, I said softly. And that's what matters. She hugged me tight. Hard. Like she was trying to memorize me. After she was taken away, the silence hit different. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, my training began. No warning. No easing in. 6 a.m. sharp. Combat instructor. Former special ops. Zero patience. He didn't care that I was sore, shaken, or still mentally wrecked. Again, he barked as I hit the mat for the 5th time. My muscles screamed. My lungs burned. But I got back up. Over and over. Finance classes followed. Law. Negotiation. Strategy. Names and numbers that made my head spin. My mother sat in on everything, watching, correcting, pushing harder than anyone else. You don't get second chances in this world, she told me. You learn fast, or you don't survive. Weeks passed. I changed. Physically, sure, but more than that, mentally. I stopped hesitating. Stopped apologizing. Stopped assuming people meant well. Then Russo knocked on my door one night. The Donovans are moving money, he said. Fast. Sloppy. My mother smiled faintly. Good, she said. That means they're scared. That's when I understood. This wasn't over. It was just the beginning. And this time? I wasn't the target anymore. I was the threat. Fear has a smell. I didn't know that before, but I learned it fast. It smells like rushed decisions, sloppy money transfers, and men who stop thinking 5 moves ahead and start reacting. The Donovan family reeked of it. Every morning started the same, before sunrise, before excuses. I ran drills until my legs shook, then sparred until my arms felt like dead weight. My instructor didn't go easy on me, not even once. Pain teaches faster than mercy, he told me while I struggled to breathe on the mat. Your enemies won't care how tired you are. He was right. After physical training came the mental grind. Boardroom simulations. Hostile takeovers. Crisis scenarios where there were no good choices, only less disastrous ones. My mother watched everything. She didn't interrupt often, but when she did, it was surgical. Don't bluff unless you're ready to burn the table, she said during one session. Power isn't loud. It's inevitable. At night, I studied Donovan financial patterns. Shell companies. Offshore accounts. Political bribes disguised as consulting fees. The deeper I dug, the clearer it became, this family didn't just want revenge. They wanted chaos. They wanted my mother distracted, emotional, reckless. They wanted me dead or broken. That's when my mother finally told me the truth. Liam Donovan's father killed himself after I crushed his empire, she said one evening, pouring whiskey like it weighed nothing. He blamed me. Raised his son on that hatred. So this was personal, I said. It always is. The next alert came 3 days later. Russo stormed into the strategy room, jaw tight. They leaked your identity. Select media. Underground channels. The word is out, you exist. I felt the shift instantly. Once a secret, always safe. Exposed? You become leverage. My mother didn't even blink. Lock it down, she said. We move first. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at my reflection. The girl looking back at me didn't feel real anymore. Her eyes were sharper. Colder. Someone who'd learned that love without awareness was just another weakness. I thought about Ethan. Not with pain, but clarity. He didn't destroy me. He exposed me. And I'd never be exposed again. The first strike came fast. One of the Donovan's European fronts collapsed overnight, accounts frozen, partners flipping, evidence dumped straight into the hands of regulators who'd been waiting for an excuse. News headlines screamed sudden financial meltdown. I watched from the control room, pulse steady. That was you? Russo asked. I nodded. Just the beginning. My mother studied me, long and quiet. You're learning, she said. The second strike hit harder. A private airstrip. Illegal shipments. Names leaked in exactly the right places. The Donovans started bleeding allies. Then came the message. A burner phone slid across the table to me. Incoming video call. Liam Donovan. His face filled the screen, older than I remembered. Thinner. Eyes wild. You think you've won? He spat. You're just a spoiled kid playing gangster. I leaned forward. You kidnapped my best friend, I said calmly. You tried to use me as bait. This isn't a game anymore. His lips curled. You're just like her. I smiled. No, I said. I'm worse. Because I learned from her mistakes. The call cut out. My mother placed a hand on my shoulder. Brief. Heavy. Finish it, she said. And I knew exactly how. Finishing it didn't mean pulling a trigger or lighting a fuse. That's amateur hour. Real damage happens quietly, on paper, in numbers, in decisions made behind closed doors that look boring until someone's entire world collapses. I spent the next 48 hours buried in data. No sleep. No distractions. Just patterns. People always repeat their habits, especially when they're stressed. Liam Donovan was no different. Every desperate move he made pointed to the same thing, his fallback plan. A private holding company in Nevada. Old money. Family controlled. Supposedly clean. It wasn't. Found the spine, I told Russo, sliding the file across the table. Everything runs through this. He skimmed it, eyebrows lifting. If we pull this thread, the whole thing unravels, I finished. Legally. My mother didn't smile. She never did when she was impressed. She just nodded once. That was her version of applause. We moved fast. Court filings hit first, civil suits, injunctions, asset freezes. Then came the regulatory pressure. Investigations stacked on investigations until the Donovans couldn't breathe without a lawyer present. Liam lashed out. Cyber attacks. Threats. One of our smaller subsidiaries got torched, literally. A warning shot. I didn't flinch. That's fear, my mother said. Let him burn himself out. Then came the final move. I requested a meeting. Neutral ground. Lawyers present. Cameras everywhere. Liam walked in looking like hell, wrinkled suit, bloodshot eyes, rage barely held together by caffeine and ego. He sneered when he saw me sitting at the table instead of my mother. They sent the kid, he said. Figures. I leaned back, calm. You wanted me exposed. Here I am. He laughed, sharp and ugly. You think this ends well for you? It already has, I said, sliding a document toward him. You're out of options. He skimmed it, and his face changed. That paper wasn't just a deal. It was a surrender disguised as mercy. Sign it, and he kept a fraction of his freedom. Refuse, and everything went public. You planned this, he growled. Yes, I said. And you helped. His hand shook as he signed. When he left the room, shoulders slumped, I felt something settle inside me. Not joy. Not revenge. Closure. Back at the estate, my mother poured 2 glasses of whiskey again. This time, she raised hers slightly. You didn't rush, she said. You didn't let emotion drive the outcome. I met her gaze. I learned from watching you. That earned me the faintest curve of her lips. Weeks later, the Donovan name disappeared from headlines. From markets. From conversations. Like it had never mattered. A year passed. At the annual shareholders meeting, my mother stood at the podium, voice steady as stone. Ava Vance will serve as executive vice president effective immediately, she announced. I stepped forward, heart calm, eyes clear. The phoenix pendant rested warm against my skin. I wasn't running anymore. I was standing exactly where I belonged. Standing on that stage didn't feel triumphant. There were no fireworks in my chest, no rush of adrenaline, no I made it moment. What I felt instead was weight. Heavy, grounded, unavoidable weight. The kind that settles on your shoulders when you realize there's no rewind button left. The girl who used to believe love was protection was gone. This version of me didn't need protection anymore. Rows of people stared up at me, shareholders, executives, sharks dressed in expensive suits. They clapped when my name was announced, smiles polished and perfectly rehearsed. A year ago, that many eyes would have made my throat close up. Now? I stood straight, hands steady, heart calm. I took the microphone and spoke clearly. No dramatic promises. No overconfidence. Just facts, strategy, and direction. I talked about controlled expansion, about reducing exposure in volatile regions, about strengthening internal oversight. While I spoke, I watched them closely. Who nodded too fast? Who leaned back? Who avoided my gaze? My mother's voice echoed in my head, people show you exactly who they are if you're patient enough to look. When I finished, the applause was louder. Respectful. Real enough. Afterward came the handshakes. The congratulations. The subtle tests disguised as compliments. You're very composed for your age. You remind me of your mother. This must have been quite the adjustment for you. I smiled at the right moments. Said the right words. Stored everything away. That night, I sat alone in my new office long after everyone else had left. The city glowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, all lights and movement and ambition. For the first time since this nightmare started, I let myself think about Ethan. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just clarity. I remembered the sound of the iron door slamming shut. The cold of the basement. The way he wouldn't meet my eyes while selling me like an object. And I realized something that surprised me, he didn't break me. He exposed me. Exposed how unprepared I was for a world where charm could be a weapon and affection could be bait. That lesson had nearly cost me my life. But it also rewired me completely. A knock pulled me back. Russo stepped inside, posture respectful as always. Security sweep is clean. No unusual movement. Good, I said. Keep monitoring. He hesitated, then asked, do you ever think about what happens when your mother eventually steps back? I looked out at the city again. She won't fully step back. Not ever. He nodded slowly. Still, you're ready. I didn't respond. Readiness isn't something you announce. It's something people realize after it's too late to challenge. Later, alone again, my fingers brushed the phoenix pendant resting against my collarbone. It was warm, like it always was. My grandmother's legacy. My mother's warning. My reminder. I hadn't survived betrayal to become softer. I survived it to become precise. Some people inherit power. Others borrow it. I earned mine the hard way, and I intended to keep it. Power changes how people look at you. Not all at once, slowly, in tiny, almost invisible ways. Conversations get shorter. Smiles get tighter. People start choosing their words like they're walking through a minefield. I noticed it within weeks of stepping into my new role. Meetings stopped being noisy. Arguments became careful. No one challenged me directly anymore, they tested the edges instead, floated ideas, waited to see if I'd bite. I didn't. I listened. Took notes. Let them underestimate my silence. That was my first real advantage. My mother watched everything from a distance. She didn't micromanage, didn't interrupt. She let me fall on small things, scrape my knees where it wouldn't kill me. When I handled something well, she said nothing. When I handled something poorly, she corrected it once, clean, precise, no emotion. Never repeat mistakes, she told me. People forgive ignorance. They never forgive patterns. The Donovan fallout was still rippling through the market. Companies that once swore loyalty to them were suddenly knocking on our door, pretending they'd always admired our leadership. I learned quickly that desperation smells worse than fear. I made them wait. Let silence do the negotiating. At night, though, things were quieter in a different way. I dreamed about the basement sometimes, not every night, but often enough. The sound of the door. The smell of metal. I'd wake up with my jaw clenched, hand already reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Trauma doesn't disappear just because you grow teeth. It just learns new places to hide. One evening, I found my mother in the study, staring at an old photograph. She didn't turn when I entered. That was your grandmother, she said, tapping the frame. She taught me everything I know. Including what it costs. I stepped closer. And was it worth it? She was quiet for a long time. Yes, she said finally. But I won't lie to you, this life takes more than it gives. You have to decide every day whether the price is still acceptable. I understood that more than she probably realized. A week later, intelligence flagged unusual movement overseas. Not Donovan remnants, someone new. Quiet. Patient. The dangerous kind. Russo brought the file to me instead of my mother. Your call, he said. That was new. I studied the report carefully. Different style. Different signatures. Whoever this was, they weren't testing strength. They were mapping behavior. They're watching, I said. Not attacking yet. Russo nodded. Predators do that. I closed the file. Let them. He raised an eyebrow. We don't react to shadows, I continued. We move when they step into the light. He smiled slightly. You're thinking like her. I shook my head. No. I'm thinking like me. Later that night, alone again, I looked at my reflection in the glass. I didn't see a victim. I didn't see a pawn. I saw someone who understood the rules now, and knew when to break them. Whatever was coming next, I wasn't afraid. I was prepared. And that made all the difference. The waiting was the hardest part. Not the fear had burned out of me months ago, but the stillness. The kind that presses against your skull while you know something is moving in the dark, circling, measuring. Whoever was watching us wasn't sloppy like the Donovans. They were patient. That alone made them dangerous. For weeks, nothing happened. No threats. No leaks. No obvious pressure. That was how I knew it was real. I doubled internal audits quietly. Rotated security schedules. Changed my routines without announcing it to anyone outside a tight inner circle. Even my mother noticed but didn't interfere. She'd taught me enough to recognize when silence meant approval. One night, Russo brought me coffee instead of a report. That's how I knew the news wasn't good. "We found the pattern," he said. "It's not a family. It's a consortium." I frowned. "Corporate? Officially?" "Yes." "Unofficially?" He lowered his voice. "Private intelligence. Mercenary finance. Governments outsource to them when they want their hands clean." I felt a slow, cold calm spread through me. "So they don't want control," I said. "They want access." Russo nodded. "And you're the access point." That was the moment it really clicked. I wasn't being targeted because I was weak anymore. I was being watched because I was becoming relevant. Dangerous in a different way. "They'll make contact," I said. "Soon." They did. The invitation came disguised as an opportunity, an exclusive global summit, off-record, invite-only. My name was on the short list. So was my mother's. That wasn't an accident. "They want to see which one of us shows up," my mother said flatly. "I will," I replied. She studied me. "You're sure?" "If I don't," I said, "they'll assume I'm hiding behind you. If you go, they'll assume I'm expendable." A long pause. "Then you go," she said. "But understand this won't be a negotiation. It'll be an evaluation." The summit was held on an island that technically didn't belong to anyone. Private airstrip. Private security. No press. No phones. The kind of place where deals get made and erased in the same breath. Every person there radiated power, but not the loud kind. No ego. No posturing. Just calm confidence and eyes that missed nothing. I felt them clock me the second I walked in. Young. Female. New. I let them. During dinner, a man across the table finally spoke. "You're Eleanor Vance's daughter." "Yes," I said evenly. "You survived something you weren't supposed to," he continued. "That makes you interesting." I met his gaze. "Survival isn't interesting. Adaptation is." A few people smiled. Others didn't. Good. Later, one of them pulled me aside. "No threats. No offers. Just a simple statement. We're watching what you become," he said. "Decide carefully." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. When I returned home, my mother poured 2 glasses of whiskey like she always did after something important. "They wanted to know if you'd fold," she said. "And?" I asked. She raised her glass slightly. "You didn't." That night, lying awake, I understood something fundamental. This world wasn't finished testing me. But I wasn't finished evolving either. After the summit, everything shifted, subtle, but permanent. It was like the air itself knew I'd crossed some invisible line. Calls came faster. Decisions carried more weight. People didn't ask if I'd be involved anymore, they asked how. That's when the first real test hit. Not a threat. Not an attack. A choice. One of our overseas partners got flagged, human rights violations, dirty labor practices, the whole ugly mess. Cutting them loose would cost us billions and destabilize 3 markets. Keeping them would protect profits but stain our name in a way that never really washes off. The board was split. They looked at me. I could feel it, that moment where people are silently betting on who you are. Not who you say you are. Who you'll be when the pressure's on and the room smells like money. Options? Someone asked. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the basement. About being treated like collateral. About how easy it is to justify cruelty when it's profitable. We walk, I said finally. Publicly. Clean break. The room erupted. You realize what that'll do to the stock. I do, I cut in. My voice didn't rise. Didn't shake. And I also realize what it does if we don't. Power doesn't protect you from consequences. It just delays them. Silence. Then my mother spoke for the first time in the meeting. She's right, she said. Proceed. That was it. The fallout was brutal. Media storms. Market dips. Angry calls from people who used to think we were on the same side. I handled every briefing myself. Took every hit head on. Didn't hide. Didn't deflect. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. New partners stepped in. Cleaner ones. Smarter ones. The kind that think long-term instead of fast cash. Our stock rebounded. Stronger than before. Russo found me on the terrace that night, city glowing below us. You just made yourself a problem, he said. I smirked. Good. He studied me. You know they're paying attention now. The consortium. Governments. People who don't like unpredictability. I'm not unpredictable, I said. I'm consistent. They just don't like what I'm consistent about. That night, I got a message on an encrypted line. No name. No number. You chose values over leverage. Noted. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then deleted it. Let them watch. A few days later, my mother invited me to dinner. Just the two of us. No staff. No agenda. You're changing the shape of the board, she said quietly. Whether you mean to or not. Is that bad? I asked. She considered it. For some people? Yes. She met my eyes. For us? Necessary. We sat there in silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. I realized then that I wasn't just stepping into her world anymore. I was reshaping it. And somewhere out there, people were adjusting their plans because of me. That used to scare me. Now? It felt earned. Power doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly, like muscle memory. One day you wake up and realize people don't question you anymore, they adjust to you. That's how I knew I'd crossed the final line. Not when my name started showing up in headlines, not when my signature moved billions, but when silence followed my words instead of debate. The world had recalibrated. I stood in my office late one night, city lights flickering like a living map of everything I now influenced. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who trusted too easily, loved too hard, believed loyalty was automatic. She felt like a distant cousin now. Familiar, but not me. My mother joined me by the window, hands clasped behind her back. Same posture she'd had my entire life. Same steel in her spine. You've gone further than I expected, she said. That wasn't praise. It was acknowledgement. I learned from the best, I replied. She shook her head slightly. No. You learned from the cost. That hit harder than anything else she could have said. Over the next months, things stabilized. Markets settled. New alliances formed. The consortium backed off, not gone, just repositioned. Predators respect strength, but they respect patience more. I gave them both. Every so often, I'd still wake up from that old nightmare. The door. The dark. The moment you realize someone you loved already chose your price. But I didn't panic anymore. I didn't spiral. I'd sit up, breathe, remind myself where I was, and who I'd become. Trauma didn't own me. It informed me. At the annual summit the following year, I took the stage again, this time not as an introduction, but as a constant. No whispers. No curiosity. Just expectation. I spoke about long-term dominance, about power that doesn't burn fast and die young. I spoke about control without cruelty, strength without chaos. Afterward, a woman I'd never met before stopped me in the hallway. "You scare people," she said bluntly. I smiled. "Only the ones who plan to do damage." She laughed. "Fair enough." That night, alone on the terrace, I touched the phoenix pendant and finally understood its meaning. It wasn't about rising from ashes. It was about choosing not to burn the same way twice. Ethan never reached out again. Neither did anyone else from that old life. I didn't miss it. I didn't need closure conversations or dramatic goodbyes. Some doors close so hard they erase the room behind them. And that's okay. Because my story was never about revenge. It was about evolution. About learning how the game actually works, and then deciding how I'd play it. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't cruel either. I was aware. And in this world? That's the deadliest thing you can be.